Welcome to Question Everything, where we question everything to shake things up, help you focus on what matters, and transform your life. We're here for creators, dreamers, and go-getters who are ready to level up. Today, we are thrilled to welcome Shamain Webster to Question Everything. Shamain is a powerhouse business and productivity coach with over 20 years of experience in mindset, marketing, and project management. She's a master at guiding entrepreneurs who feel stuck and turning their confusion into clarity with her brilliant Triple S framework for managing information. If you're ready to unlock those missing pieces and boost your business game, you are in for a treat today. Now, Shamain, before we dive into your impressive Triple S framework, can you share a bit about your journey to becoming a coach and what ignited your passion for helping entrepreneurs break through their barriers?
Absolutely. And thank you for having me on, Gregory. I'm so excited to be here. So let me jump in. My story is that I have been an entrepreneur for over 20 years, like you said, and I have jumped around in so many businesses. I have tried so many different things. Naturally, I'm an ideator, and so I just have dabbled. It's kind of like being a squirrel and jumping around from business to business. And what I've found during that journey is I've had such a difficult time making the progress that I've wanted because I haven't been able to have focus to follow through on my ideas. And so that's kind of part of my story is it's not that the ideas were bad. It's just that I kept getting distracted and finding other things to take away my attention. And what happened is I kept starting over. So instead of seeing something through and giving it that chance, I kept starting over with something new and never really seeing it cross the finish line. So it was then that I realized that my biggest problem was getting focused. My biggest problem was having clarity, staying focused, and finishing my task all the way through so I could actually see what I need to refine in my business, what I actually need to get better at, and basically finish what I started. I think that a lot of times when we hit an obstacle in the entrepreneur journey, it's easy to kind of give up and pivot and start something new, especially for entrepreneurs because we're ideators naturally. But I think the key for me was really learning to push through and figure out how to not get distracted and how to overcome some of the obstacles. And a fundamental aspect of that I learned was just learning to be organized.
Learning to be organized. Gosh, I feel like that is the number one problem I'm hearing with entrepreneurs now that I'm in this world is staying organized, staying focused, not squirreling out and
exactly.
finishing. Like you mentioned it, and Alex Hormozi talks about this. I forgot what he calls it, but it's basically the, unconscious incompetence and then conscious incompetence, where I know I don't know what I'm doing. First, I don't know that I don't know what I'm doing. Then I'm aware that I don't know what I'm doing. And then things get hard. And it's like, yes, this is a great idea. I want to do this. Oh, this is really hard. I don't want to do this. And you get to that low. And it's like, if you just push through that low and get to mastery, it'll work for you. But what happens is we get to that place where this isn't fun anymore.
Yeah. And really what I feel like is we hit a ceiling, and then it doesn't mean we're not competent. It just means it's time for us to level up. It's time to learn something new that that we have to grow in that particular area. And we just need to learn that particular skill so then we can take ourselves to the next level. And so we just have to see it through.
That part, embracing that continuous learning. Now, your Triple S framework has been a game changer for so many. Can you walk us through what the Triple S stands for and why it's so effective in managing information and getting focused?
Yeah, I would love to. And I really hope this will help your audience kind of figure some things out and see their own projects through. So this is what I've learned. We are in an informational age, right? Where there is just constant noise coming at us in so many different directions, right? We've got all the gurus giving us advice, and we've got YouTube videos that we need to watch, and books we're reading, and advice we're getting, right?
Yeah.
And so it's not that this information is bad information. It's great stuff. The problem is that oftentimes we are not listening to it or reading it at the appropriate time. And our brain is not capable of handling so much information and trying to retain it. Like, to me, I think of it like a computer, and the computer you have only has so much memory. It only has a capacity for its RAM, right? And so what we're trying to do is add more software, add more information to the computer, and the computer's like, I can't handle anymore, you know? And so number one, we have to not bombard our minds and ask it to hold on to more information than it can. So we need to figure out a system to be able to manage that, so that we get to keep that information, but we don't necessarily, we're not trying to store it here. We have a system of storage, and we come back to it at the appropriate time. And that's the other part, is that a lot of times when we're skimming through and somebody has good advice, or watching a YouTube video, it's great information. You know, we're looking at it, we're watching the video, but in a few days, we only can recall 10% of that information, which can be very useless, because we really want to have absorbed a much greater amount of that content, right? And so that's even more important to set aside a time that we actually sit down and dedicate to learning content in a way that we can understand it, we can retain it, we can summarize it, we can store it, we can come back to it later, not on the go when it's just, we're just asking our brain, hey, try and remember this information for next time. And our brain's like, I got no room, you know? So that's why here's why I created the triple S framework. First of all, this is what the S's stand for. It's save, sort, strategize. Okay. So the save, what I do is I create a dumping spot for temporary and immediate information that I learned throughout my day. So if I find a great Instagram reel, or if I find a YouTube video, or I even think of a great idea for my business, as we often do as entrepreneurs, right? We're like, ooh, that's a good idea. So I need to store that place immediately in a place that I can come back to it later. So for me, I use Google Keep. I use Google Keep because it has a Chrome extension that you can plug in, and it has an app, and they speak to one another, which is really important. So now all the information is going in one place, whether I'm on my desktop or whether I'm on my phone. And so all this data is now I'm not making my brain responsible to remember this information. And I know that it's in a safe place that I can come back to it later. So that brings me to the second phase, which is to sort. So every morning I wake up and I open up my Google Keep. That's one of the places I look for my sorting strategy. And I go through and I place that information in the right place. I use a system called the PARA system. And so I disperse my information where it needs to go, and I can come back to it at the appropriate time, whether it's to learn, whether it's to refer back to, whether it's to add into a project I'm working on, whatever that is, that I go through that process every morning. I start my day sorting through that information. Wow. So my final step is to strategize. So once I've sorted through the information, now I strategize my day. I plan my day. What am I going to work on today? I have a project management template that I use every day. It's got deadlines for my projects that kind of keep me focused on what I'm supposed to be doing. So I follow through on that. And I plan that. I plan my calendar events. I add my tasks for the day. See, once all these things are done, we start our day with clarity. We know exactly what we're supposed to be working on. We know exactly where things are. And so it frees us up to be able to be creative
Mm,
and to think with clarity instead of feeling like there's a lot of chaos going on in our mind and it's so hard to make decisions, good decisions, when
right.
when our mind is overloaded. So
Mm,
once we know where things are, when we need to do what we need to do, now there's a sense of freedom that we encounter and we're like, okay, I know what to do with my day, and you feel really good about the next steps.
wow. I- So I'm glad I didn't ask ahead of time what this framework was because my mind was just blown on the spot. That this is what I aspire to do. This is what I want to do. This is how I want to conduct my day. But boy, when you get started on that negative dopamine loop cycle where like the first thing you do is check your phone, it like sets the tone for the wrong direction your brain should move instead of the natural way that we get dopamine, which is accomplishing things, right?
Mhm, mhm,
You mentioned the para system for sorting and that you have a project management template that helps you. So I try to use like focus timers or Pomodoro timers or like
mhm.
little to-do lists on these little whiteboards. And
Yeah.
I have a ton of to-do lists and nothing gets done because it's just this ever piling, like you said, all the information is coming at you constantly.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's talk about this para system for sorting because you just dropped it out there and then you left.
Yeah.
So
Oh, I hope I didn't freeze up. Okay. So the PAR system, and I don't know if you had that the screen excuse me, the slide that I sent to you. That would be wonderful for your listeners to be able to see. Maybe it would give them a better understanding of how it works. If it's not up, I'll give you a minute. But first, I want to say this before I talk about the PAR system, and that is that before we try and implement getting organized, we have to get all this noise out of our head. We have to get it out of our head. Implementing an organizational system is very difficult when you're in a state of overwhelm. So I created a template called the Mind Sweep, and I am actually giving it away to your listeners today. It's on my website. Hopefully, you can drop the link. When you subscribe to my newsletter, which gives you little nuggets and tips, a few times a week, nothing overwhelming. You will get this template for free. And so here's what it allows you to do. You want to dump all your ideas, all the advice, anything that you have stored up in your brain, and you're like, remember this. Uh, the Mindsweep template allows you to dump all that information onto the spreadsheet in a safe place, so you can come back to it later. A lot of times it's important information. Clearly, we have it stored in our mind because it was of value to us. But the problem is that, again, talking about it's just too much for our mind to hold so much. So we really need a dumping place for this information. So if you're a tactile person, you want to get a piece of paper and a pen, and you just brainstorm and you dump all that information out and get it out of your system, all these ideas and everything, until you feel a sense of total relief, like, okay, all
mm,
this stuff I've been storing up is now like documented, right?
right.
Now, if you're doing it on a spreadsheet, I would say transfer it into a template. You can use Google Sheets or you can use my Notion template that I'm giving for free.
Hmm,
But the reason why you want to use a database like Google Sheets is because it enables you to do things, sort it, filter it, make it do whatever. You can put it in order by priority. You know what I'm saying? And so on in my Notion template, I I have put all my stuff inside the Notion template. And then once I'm completely depleted of all the stuff in my head, I go through and I categorize it. Is this business? Is this family? Is this personal? Is this finances? Right? Because
mm,
this noise in our head, it's not just business stuff, right? It's stuff
right.
we want to do with our family. It's stuff we want to do. We got to do with our budget or whatever. And so I categorize it, and then I prioritize it. I prioritize it by one, two, 3. And so what that allows me to do is I can sort and filter it. I can say, show me all my priority 1 items, that things I really want to do very soon. And or my priority 3 are things that are like, down the line, I'll get around to it, but I want to save it. It's a good idea, right? So before we get into the PARA system, I just want your listeners to know this is something they have to do to get clarity. All right. And so once that is done, we can move on to the triple S, the framework. So what we see on this sheet right here is all the various noise that is coming at us, right? We've got our ideas, social media, and we've got advice and conversations we're having, books and things inside the books that we're reading. So what I do is I take that stuff and I deposit it. I dump it inside Google Keep. Very, very easy to do. And this is the thing. It needs to be an easy platform. You don't have to use Google Keep. This is what I recommend. But whatever you use, make sure you've got a desktop extension for it, a corresponding app, and it's easy to use. That's the key, right? Because as entrepreneurs, especially solopreneurs, we don't have time for complicated things. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the last thing we need is more hard stuff in our day. So Google Keep makes it easy. So I stick everything in there. And then, as I said, in the morning, the first thing I do is I go through the next step of my triple S framework and I do the sort. And the way I sort is in my Notion, which is what I use, I have a file for projects, I have a file for areas, I have a file for resources, and then archive for things that just kind of need to be stored away. And so that's what I do. I plug it into those places in a way that I can understand it makes sense to me. And that, I think that's the key, is make it make sense for you. Everybody's a little bit different, right?
Right.
And so that's how I can retrieve that information later and find it quickly. And one of the things I love about Notion is, I can also just use the search feature in there and just type a couple of keywords and it'll find it for me, even if I couldn't really remember exactly where I put it.
Yeah, that is so helpful, especially like I wish there was a search feature in our brains, right?
Yeah.
It's like pairing with a computer to become a superhuman. So this is excellent. I love that you're giving this away as well. I'll take that off the screen so
Yeah,
they can click the link that I dropped it on YouTube and Facebook. I couldn't find us on LinkedIn for some reason, but it's streaming live there as well. So what's one common mistake that you see entrepreneurs making when trying to organize their ideas, like currently, and how does your framework help solve that for them?
Ooh, that's a heavy question, loaded question. Okay, let's see if I can tackle that one. I think that when you do not come from a place of clarity, if you don't know as an entrepreneur who you are serving, what they need, what their problems are, and how you plan to solve them, it can be very easy to start veering in the wrong direction and solving the wrong problems for the wrong people. So I think clarity is key because, quite honestly, there's a lot of problems we can solve, right? I mean, the world is full of problems, and so it's not a problem to try and find, be the one to bring solutions. It's that we have to niche down and figure out who we're trying to serve, because that's really all we have the capacity. Those are the only problems we really have the capacity to solve, right? And so get hardcore clarity on the problems. I use the Find Matrix, by the way. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. I would encourage everyone to learn about that. But get clear about whose problem you're trying to solve, and then, or I would say, remember that it's about quality and not quantity, right? We try and do too much, and we have got to get good at choosing a few things and being really good at them, refining them, and then from there we can take on something new. That's why I have, like, I use a project template, and I log all my projects in there, and I have deadlines in there, and I just commit to seeing those through. But with every project I take on, I have to ask myself, is this meeting the needs of my target audience, or am
Mm,
I going off in an entirely different direction?
this is good. This is really good. I know a lot of entrepreneurs right now, they could use this little tip that just that alone, they could have tuned in for that and they would have been good. You mentioned the find matrix. What's that?
Okay, the find matrix is such a easy way to figure out your target audience needs. Okay, so find is their fears. Okay,
Mm.
what are your audience's fears? The I is insecurities. What are their insecurities? The end are their needs, and the D is their desires. So if
Wow.
you sit down and you figure out their fears, insecurities, needs, and desires, you will learn a lot and know how to frame your content, constantly speaking to those things.
Mm, that is so good. And so necessary too, because I can't tell you how many times I've made this mistake, right? You
Me
said,
too.
is my content going, is it helping my audience or am I veering off in a different direction?
Yeah.
Like, I, I'm not even going to go into all the mistakes I've made. Just know I've made them, right? So you've
But
worked
I
with,
hear you.
I know you do. This is innovation is born of necessity. And so we, oh, there we go. Okay. So we typically find these solutions in the 11th hour of our problems, right? So the reason that we have these solutions for people is because we've been through these problems ourselves, or we've seen enough people
Exactly.
go through these problems and we have a high level of empathy,
Yes.
make sure that no one else feels this way. Because
Yep.
it's
Yep.
miserable, like not knowing where you're going, trying to go fast. It's like having a windshield with mud on it and trying to drive without crashing.
Yeah.
Like we're not getting anywhere. So you've worked with a lot of clients over the years. Can you share a standout success story you have that highlights how your approach has transformed someone's entrepreneurial path? I know that's probably another heavy question, but that's what I do. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Okay, so well, first of all, let me say that the focus and productivity niche is something that I've just recently started. I would love to really help more people in that, because I know from speaking to entrepreneurs, it's first of all, it's a fundamental part of your success as an entrepreneur is the ability to focus and work with clarity. And but it is something I'm just now starting to serve people in. But the other area that I feel like I have a lot more experience in is simply um, being a ideator and a problem solver. Over the years, despite having started a lot of businesses, um, and not being focused, I would say the upside in that has been just learning so much information about marketing and mindset, right? And um, identity and believing in yourself and just all of those things. And so I feel like whenever I have conversations with people who want coaching, it's often filled with aha moments. It's things that they themselves cannot see that they need to be doing, and I'm able to think outside the box, um, bring all this marketing stuff that I have learned over the years and show them where the gaps are and how they can fill those gaps.
Mm,
The other day, well, probably about a month ago, there was a very successful Instagram follower, excuse me, not follower of me, but Instagram um, influencer, and he has about 200,000 people. And so we got on a coaching call, and I remember I made one suggestion to him about his processes that has really increased his conversion rate. And it's just something that he hadn't thought about. It was just that whole lead magnet conversion process. And
mm,
so that's the kind of stuff, like I feel like I can see those things and I can make those suggestions. And sometimes it only takes one thing. It only takes one change or
mm.
one suggestion, and all of a sudden that's the big thing, right? That's the big thing for our growth. So that's what I love doing. I love hearing people's processes and offering them ideas that I really feel are going to help their business grow and now help them get clarity and be more efficient with their time.
It's almost like you provide a mirror for them to look into. And
Mhm.
so they're stuck. They're telling you everything about it. And you're just, writing it down. Then you present this mirror. Is this what you're stuck with? And
Mhm.
then you have that one missing piece, that roadmap. Um,
Mhm.
and you don't even give them the full roadmap. Sometimes you just have to give them that one piece that they needed. And it's
Yeah.
like endless possibilities open because there was something, we're each other's eyes and ears, right? So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, and also I would just say, because as solopreneurs, we're wearing so many hats, sometimes it's just hard to see those things. You're just like, we're so busy doing a lot of stuff that it's hard to see those small little changes. And that refining that we need to do in certain areas, it's just hard to see those things because we're so busy. So it really helps to bring someone in who can give an outside perspective and who's a very strong problem solver, and they can help you see things that you didn't see yourself.
absolutely. It is so imperative to get a guide, a coach, a mentor, someone that can help you collapse time, so to speak. Like
Yeah,
it took you 20 years to get what you've learned. You can help someone get there in 20 minutes now.
I hope so.
I mean, so for me, I found that like it's very easy when you listen to someone and you listen well enough, you can see the problems pretty fast,
Hmm.
right? You
Yeah.
can see their limiting beliefs, you can see where they're stuck. And all
Hmm.
you have to do is remove that one piece. And then it's like, how did you do that? And it's
Yeah.
like, because you've been stuck in this hypnotic rhythm. And I just helped to shatter that for you.
Yeah, yeah, and it's good to see a sense of relief in people. I mean, I just think we need to help each other. Entrepreneurship can be, especially solopreneurship, can be a lonely journey at times. And so we need to support each other in that journey and help each other progress.
Absolutely. I've found that, when you level up and not saying that the people that you were around before you were an entrepreneur are not good people. They're just not on the same brainwave or
Mhm.
frequency anymore. And so
Right.
it's hard to explain your entrepreneur ideas to people that aren't entrepreneurs. And so when you get in a room where you're no longer not the smartest, but you're not the smartest in that area,
Mhm.
you start to kind of soak up like, oh, wait, there's a lot I don't know. There's
Yeah.
a lot of things I could be doing that are a lot more simple. And it's
Yeah.
surrounding yourself with people that are doing the thing
Yes.
until you're doing the same thing rather than putting yourself in a place where you feel better than so
Mhm.
that you don't have to progress. Like if I'm the
Mhm.
smartest person in my circle, I probably need to move on.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's not that other people are dumb, just
They're not there yet.
they're not either not there yet or they're just not interested. Not
Yeah.
entrepreneurship is not for everyone. We're
Oh,
visionaries.
yeah.
We have an ability to see things very clearly that most
Mhm.
people just don't connect the dots.
Yeah. Yes. And I pictured also today, I had this visual of the difference between just walking on a treadmill and actually walking or running outside, right? Both are expending energy. One's going nowhere, the other one's going somewhere. So we just got to make sure we're going somewhere.
Right. It's that reminds me of the rocking horse, right? Um, you can sit on a rocking horse and rock all day, and yes, you're rocking, but are you really getting anywhere?
Hmm.
I can't remember what it was, like the difference, but it's a funny meme. So I have some questions that have come in my personal messages,
Cool.
and I don't know whether to ask this last question or these 10 questions rapid fire. This is the first time I'm ever trying this, so this is going to be fun.
Let's do it.
You down for it?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this because the question was going to be for aspiring entrepreneurs who are feeling stuck right now. What's one practical piece of advice you'd give them to start moving forward today? But I feel like answering the questions they actually are having, right? The questions that most entrepreneurs I deal with have
Hmm. Hmm.
back to back, rapid fire would be a lot more fun than this
Oh,
one.
I'm always down for fun, Gregory.
Let's
Please,
do it.
let's have some fun.
So I'm a stuck entrepreneur. How do I figure out which tasks to prioritize when everything feels urgent and important?
Okay. So, well, first of all, just make sure you are starting with the mind sweep and getting all that stuff. So you are starting from a place of clarity, like I mentioned. If there's a lot going on, then there's probably a lot in your mind.
Mm,
So get all the ideas and thoughts out.
mm,
Okay, as far as choosing things, like I don't know what this person may be trying to do, but I remember something that Myron said:
mm,
Start with the things that are easiest
mm,
to accomplish, easiest to produce a a harvest, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like, if we're overwhelmed, we need to see the reward of our efforts and do the tasks that can quickly be done and that are going to produce the best results. So if it were me, I would prioritize in that way. I would
mm,
look at what's going to be most beneficial for my business,
mm,
and what's going to be the fastest to execute, and I would start there, and I
mm.
would put the next task and I would just order them in that order, making things that might be a little more challenging a little bit further down the line.
Okay, that's really good. Um, Almost like making a to-do list, and then the first thing on the to-do list is make a to-do list, and you're like, "Yeah, I did something today."
Yes.
Next question: what's the best way to organize my ideas and projects so I don't feel overwhelmed? Now I know we talked about this. Google Keep. Um, what
Yeah.
about those that want the hands-on,
The hands-on. What do you mean by the hands-on?
not having to use a computer, like someone that's old?
Ooh. Old school? Do we have old school people on this on this show? I was not prepared for that question. So okay. Um, First of all, let me say I want to extend an extra gift to your listeners because for them being proactive. I have another template I use as my project management Notion template. If they hang on to the end, I would love to gift it to them. If they, I would say maybe we can figure out a way where they can. If they subscribe to my email,
Mm,
I would say by the end of the day, I will specifically send them only um, this template. But so
that's very generous.
okay. The last question, will you repeat it again so I can answer it correctly?
What's the best way to organize my ideas and projects so I don't feel overwhelmed?
Okay. So again, mind sweep, getting all the projects you have in your mind out of your head. Um, and then what I do is then once they're prioritized, so you're going to go through, and as I mentioned with the other answer, is you're going to figure out what are the projects that are going to be easiest to execute,
Mhm,
and produce the best results. And so in the MindSuite template, you can then prioritize 1, 2, 3, right? So now you've sorted them. And then I would then bring them into my project template because now it's this idea is now turning into a project. So I would move it over to the project template, which by the way, one thing I love about Notion is I get my spreadsheets, my databases to communicate with one another. Have you ever noticed that with it?
I haven't played with it that deep.
Really cool. So I can take something that's in my mind suite and I can tell it to move it into my projects database, and now it's there. It's turned into a project. So very simple click of a button and that happens. So I love that. So anyway, so then it's turned into a project. I figure out the deadline. It even my template allows you to create subtasks within the project because sometimes projects require a lot of steps,
Mm,
right? It's not just do this enormous project. It's do this, then it's do this, then it's do this, right? And so a project can feel daunting until it's broken down into smaller steps. And then it's like, oh, I can do this small step today, you know? So,
mhm,
so then you break it into small steps. So that's what I would do. I would prioritize it. And how you figure out again, I don't know the business that they're in and what their goals are, but to me, it's always about what is going to give me the best return? How best am I going to, yeah, sometimes it's all about, right now I'm trying to attract customers. That's my main goal, just attracting. And by the way, if attracting customers and or like creating your brand and if people have not figured out who their target audience is and learned how they need and what their needs, desires, fears, and securities are, I would not make a move until that is determined, because you could be treading water, like wasting a lot of time doing tasks that are going to go nowhere. So I would say make sure that is one of your projects, is to figure that out. And then let's say attracting your audience is a critical component, right? Like know, like, trust me, that whole concept. So if there's really no audience to sell things to, I would say that is going to be an important priority, developing that relationship. And one of the most critical ways we can do that is not only by creating content that is going to speak to our audience's needs and hit home to them, but getting them to subscribe to your email list. If we don't have an email list going, a lead magnet, that kind of stuff that's bringing them in, because email lists build community, they build interaction, they help them get to know, like, and trust you. They're your best candidate to build your business. So we really want to do everything we can to simply develop a relationship with customers and bring them in. So I would say start there.
Okay. And it's really important to build an email list, because I've seen people that have built up their social media and their account either gets banned or hacked, and they lose all of those followers, and they have no way of finding them again or contacting them because that account is gone. So you really want to not own your audience, but
yeah. And on top of that, how often do people even see our posts, right? I mean, you know what I mean? You can have 10,000 followers. How many of them are seeing it? But when you have an email list, everybody's getting your emails coming through. And if they are really interesting emails, written well, freebies, value, they're going to be opening them fairly regularly. So that is going to connect with them more frequently than simply posts.
Absolutely. Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I've posted something and just expected everyone to see it. And then they're like, I never saw that post. I'm like, of course you didn't.
There's too much noise.
There's way too much noise. And we're in an echo chamber, so we only see more of what we already like.
Right.
So there's a lot more, 7 more questions, but
what we said we were going to go through them real fast, and we my answers are taking really long, so I'll try.
It's okay, because like you're giving a lot of value. So this is really good stuff. Someone's going to look back on this and be like, man, this is good. I'm gonna do this. So how can they stay motivated and avoid burnout when they're facing these constant challenges? And we know those challenges that come up as entrepreneurs that make us feel like giving up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say the most important thing is that we take care of ourselves and we know our limits. Being in a positive, hopeful frame of mind is the best thing we can do for ourselves. We will work with maximum creativity, maximum clarity when we are in a positive state of mind and we're hopeful. And so if that means taking a step back and resting and taking a break, if that means that maybe just choosing one thing instead of 5 things, get to a place where you have more wins. You know, we have to get to a place where we give ourselves the opportunity to have wins. And if that means cutting some things out and focusing on one thing that we can win at, that will help our mindset change and we will be more motivated to do other things. But if we just cannot function our best when we are burnt out and overwhelmed. And that basically is our brain saying, you're not taking care of me. You're giving me too much. I'm too confused. And so it's time to reevaluate what we're putting on our plate and if that's reasonable.
That's so good. And a lot of entrepreneurs deal with the neurodivergent aspect of things. Like we're either ADHD, dyslexic, autistic in some way on the spectrum of learning disabilities, which
Mhm.
really is extra creative ability. We're just so creative that we
Yeah.
can't be contained. We can't be put in a linear fashion. But
Yeah.
when we do, gosh, are we some powerhouses? Uh,
Well, and if I can speak to that real quick,
absolutely.
um, I honestly, I mean, I haven't been diagnosed, but I totally think I have ADHD. I leave my drawers and cabinets open all the time. Like my husband's like, you have got to like close the cabinets, and I even did an Instagram post showing everybody my habits. It's so ridiculous, but um, all the more reason though to start your day off well, all the more reason to learn the habit of being organized and store information. We have to um I would say we have to do things that actually make those issues easier for us to manage. And the one thing we can do is just limit our distractions.
Mhm.
And we might have to work hard with that, but it's worth it. And dedicate time to do certain things and not allow ourselves to veer off in different directions at the wrong time. I mean, we just need to figure out a way. I think I'm hyper creative too. I love interior design. I love to create images and graphics and all of that stuff. But the question is it making progress?
Mm.
Is just producing things isn't making progress. So whatever I do, and it needs to make progress, and so I have to make sure I'm sitting down and really thinking things through before I start my day.
And thinking is the hardest thing that most people never do.
Mhm.
Can't tell you how many times Myron has told me that. And I've made it a point to intentionally spend time thinking, because just the amount of clarity that comes through thinking through a problem, like from beginning to end, or thinking through a solution from beginning
Yeah.
to end. You mentioned and for neurodivergence, we have a sleepy frontal lobe. I've heard it's a sleepy frontal lobe. I say, instead of having adults in our executive boardroom making decisions, we have a bunch of kids that need to be monitored, right?
Maybe toddlers.
Toddlers, exactly. And they need to play with toys. They need to go outside. We need to go do something. Because I don't know about you, but for me, my body and my brain have to be engaged at the same time.
Mm,
Otherwise, if it's just my body and I don't have to use my brain, I'm bored. If
mm,
it's just my brain and I can't use my body, I'm falling asleep. Like, there's
mm,
no way we're doing anything. And so,
mhm,
to like tennis, hiking, golf,
mhm,
those kind of
mhm.
things for us are really good. Going out for a walk,
Yeah, walking is, yeah, very nice.
so good. I got a
Mhm,
little treadmill down here. I haven't pulled it out yet, but
mhm,
at some point I'm going to be walking today, either outside or on this treadmill, depending on what I'm doing. Um, so giving yourself that room to go and play, to go
mhm.
live some life, have some experiences, because creativity is nothing more than connecting dots. And the more life we live, the more dots we have to connect.
Mhm,
Go and live some life. Like, don't spend every waking hour trying to work on or in your business.
mhm.
Get out and live. Get
Yeah,
out, go try to sell. Get out and go do something that
yeah,
more experience and more dots to connect, so that you can create better solutions for your people.
yeah, and a lot of times that's where the clarity happens.
Absolutely. Yes. Doing it scared, unprepared, and oh goodness, learning by doing, right?
Mhm,
Because we
mhm.
can sit and prepare all day, but
Yeah,
it's much different when we're preparing than it is in application.
mhm.
We learn this the hard way, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Let's see. So, what's a simple approach to overcoming decision fatigue when running my business?
Um,
I have an answer for this one, but
ooh,
just,
you go.
oh, I can go. Okay, cool. So,
Yeah.
decision fatigue is a real thing, and what I found that helps me is preparing my next day the evening before. So, the more decisions I can remove from my day early on, the easier it is to get in momentum or get in motion. Because I don't know about you, but some mornings I wake up and I'm paralyzed because there's so much to do that I get stuck in a thinking loop. And then that goes on for hours. And by the time I look up, it's 2 o'clock, right?
Mhm,
I've done nothing with my day but think about all the things I could, should, and would be doing.
mhm,
So if I make the decision of what I'm going to wear, what I'm going to eat, first thing I'm going to do in the morning, the first thing I'm going to focus on, just kind of plan out overall what I need to accomplish for the next day, then I know when I wake up, I have a purpose to move towards, right? But when I have to make all those decisions early in the day, it's like, well, I could wear this, but I could also wear this, but I could also just wear, pajamas because I work from home. But like that right there, and then staying off of social media first thing when you wake up, if you go to a place that makes you make 1,000 tiny micro decisions, you'll be
Yeah.
decision fatigued before you even start your day. And so everything feels like a chore. Everything feels heavy.
Yeah. That's
So,
great. I love that. And I would just add to that, I totally agree with all of that. I would just turn off all the, first of all, don't add any more decisions to your list, right? So turn off anything that is requiring you to make more decisions and get hold of the current decisions at hand.
mm,
Um, don't allow that list to get longer and longer. Um, I guess my strategy would be to I would set aside 30 minutes. Here's what I do. I implement something in my day called Eat the Frog. Have you heard of that?
I have.
Yeah. So if making decisions is a horrible experience, I would probably put that as my Eat the Frog, doing
Mm,
your most difficult things first thing, which aligns with what you were just saying.
mm,
Get the difficult stuff done so you can free up your mind. So, um, prioritizing the importance of the decision, like how imperative that decision is, and then tackling that during your Eat the Frog. Set a timer for 15 minutes and let that be your, okay, got to make some decisions about this stuff. And
mm,
also, let me just add, we have got to learn how to have grace for ourselves. Like, we have to learn to say, I didn't finish all this today, and that's okay. And that
mm,
it's okay that I didn't finish. There's nothing wrong with me. We need to take care of ourselves first. And we work best when we take care of ourselves first. So, anyway, but I love what you said. I thought that was great.
No, and I love that you mentioned the giving yourself grace, because I know countless people that are just beating themselves up for not being further, for not doing more, for not having more. And it's just like, dude, you're in competition with your past self, not the person that's on social media posting the most, not all the people that you follow. Like, it's their race. Let them run their race and you run yours.
Mm-hmm.
But give yourself grace on this race, because you are human. We're human, right?
Yeah.
We're not meant for the amount of information we have today. We're not meant for the amount of doing, because we're human beings, not human doings, right?
Right. Right. Yeah. And
So
I think we just need to ask ourselves, am I moving forward?
that part.
Am I moving forward? I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's an inch or a mile. Am I moving forward? And
Mm,
you never know in that journey when the breakthrough will come. When that one little change you make, once that implementation that you didn't know about that you tried, when all of a sudden your breakthrough will come. So you just hang in there and you keep making progress every day, a little bit at a time,
mm,
and that breakthrough comes. And what I love is in that moment of breakthrough comes a story. And
mm,
that story is meant to help other people who are on that exact same journey, just like we're sharing our story of clarity, right? And focus. And we went through that experience. So perhaps there's something we are called to learn in this experience that is meant to be shared to serve others. And so we have to keep that in mind.
absolutely. And be vulnerable enough to share, right? Because how many
Mhm.
people are open to sharing their failures or their journey in how they started something, didn't quite work out, and now look where I am, right?
Yeah.
So, how do I balance learning new skills with executing my current business plans? And I know you briefly mentioned like carving out time.
Oh, yeah. I'm so glad someone asked that question. Uh, for the longest time, I felt like learning was separate from my work hours.
Mm,
And so I would work, 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 work. And then I would try and squeeze in learning in bed at night, trying to read some kind of book, which was probably the worst time. You're not supposed to like try and learn things right before bed, right? Because then you're staying up all night, like, ooh, I could do this and I could try this, you know? And so what I finally learned, and Warren Buffett actually does this, is
Hmm.
learning he spends hours learning as part of his trade, as part of his
Hmm.
work, and he's done that with his business partner, since when they first began. And so now what I do is I add an hour of learning into my workday. I
Hmm.
learn from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. I have a list of things in actually like my projects.
Wow.
And I will learn how to, for example, how to create eye-catching headlines, for
Hmm.
example. I'm subscribed to an email on how to create great headlines, great hooks. So I will open up my document where I deposit.
Uh-oh. Did we lose you for a second? Hopefully you come back. No. The cliffhanger is real right now. Is it me? Or okay. Well, while she's gone, balancing learning new skills with executing current business plans. I'm so curious to know what's happening here. Okay, so we lost her. Well, while we wait for her to come back, uh, drop some comments if you're getting value from this right now. What is one thing that stuck out to you so far watching? Because this has been really good. I really hope she comes back. I don't know what happened. Um, Technology is great until it isn't. I was so engulfed in what she was saying too. And now, okay, so waiting. How I would balance learning new skills. I love that she mentioned that she carves out intentional time to learn and puts that in because, if you come from a place where, they tell you to be at your desk for 8 hours and you have to be doing this thing, you think that learning has to be done separate from your job or separate from whatever it is that you're doing, when learning is actually like there's this feedback loop that happens where you're learning as you go, but you're also applying, like you're collapsing the time between learning something and doing it. The less time you can have between learning and doing, the easier it's going to be for you to teach, because when one teaches to learn, one teaches to learn. So one of the best things you can do when you're learning something is go teach it to someone else, because that's going to help you by solidifying what you've learned by teaching it to someone else. But also when they ask questions and you are stuck on that particular thing that you're learning, and you could be humble enough to say, you know what, that's a really good question, I don't know, let me find out. And that's where the miracle starts to happen is um, one teaches to learn. If I'm teaching you, I'm learning as I'm teaching you that not only what I'm doing works, but also um, learning from your feedback. Um, wow. So looks like we lost her momentarily, but she'll be right back. Um, yeah, wow. That's never happened before. So not sure what happened. Hopefully this is providing value for you. If she doesn't come back in the next couple minutes, we'll go ahead and end this podcast early. She did have the mind sweep template for you, and she did say hold on to the end for the template for her Notion project management template. Oh, there she is. She's coming back. All right, here we go.
Hey, okay.
Welcome back. All right. I tried to not be so awkward, but I was like, this has never happened.
Yeah, I don't know what that happened. But anyway, I forget what we were talking about.
You were talking about putting things in a bucket. That's the last thing I remember you saying. How to balance learning skills. You said.
Oh yeah, I was just saying that I set aside an hour and I sit down and I just learn all the things I've been wanting to learn, and I give myself permission as part of my workday to do that. Then in that same time, that's where I was talking about when you give yourself a dedicated time, then you give yourself the ability to truly understand and digest that information instead of just glazing over it, right? And then I turn around and I'll summarize it, so that, because when you summarize things yourself, you are really getting to a deeper level of understanding it. You're putting it into your own words. And then guess what? You get to turn around and you can use that as content because you put it into your own words. So that's another cool thing that happens.
That's so good. And Myron talks about this in his inner circle. I don't know if I'm allowed to share. He shared it on YouTube, but when you hear a sermon, when you go to, you hear a speech, you read a book, don't write down what they said. Write down what you thought of as a result of what they said.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have fresh content. And he talked about Charlie Tremendous Jones was the one that said that originally. And so he calls it Charlie Jonesing his content. I was like, that is brilliant.
Yeah, it's great advice.
Great advice.
Mm-hmm.
So we got 4 more questions, but we have also 4 more minutes. I mean, I want to keep it at an hour. We'll probably go over, but what are some quick tips to shift my mindset from feeling stuck to being productive?
Okay. Well, I think first of all, just acknowledge if you are overloaded and you're putting too much on your plate. Just acknowledge that, and that's where that grace part comes in. And what was the second part of the question?
Shift my mindset from feeling stuck to being productive. So
yeah,
mentioning giving grace, noticing if you're overwhelmed.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes you might need to give yourself a little bit of break. Give yourself permission to take a day or 2 off. The world is not going to come crashing down. Your business is not going to fall apart if you take a break. It's in that time that you can really, and one of the most powerful things is to sit down and just journal. Just write down what you really want to do, where you want to go, why did you get into this in the first place? Like, just kind of go back to that vision you had and how you wanted to help and serve people. During that time, turn off all the noise and get into quietness and write down and just kind of allow yourself to think and not do. You know what I mean? And that'll kind of center you back to what is most important. And then, as I mentioned previously, when you come back into your work, figure out what are, let's say, 2 or 3 things I can do right now and really just put my focus into, and I can really succeed at and see results in, and just get those wins back for yourself. Do things that encourage you and get you into a happy place of mind. And remember, this is the other thing. This goes back to identity. Remember who you are. Sit down and write all the wins you have already had, not just temporary wins like with your business, but just wins in your life, like your identity. What makes you special? What makes you so unique? We all have certain special gifts and skills that we have, and we don't remember them enough. We don't celebrate them enough. And you need to get back to celebrating your wins and celebrating who you are and what makes you so absolutely special. And that's where people need you, and that uniqueness and that skill set. So sit down and just celebrate you for a little while and get back to get back to a healthy mindset of what you offer the world.
Absolutely. Remember who you are based on whose you are and the value that only you can offer the world. That is so beautiful. I'm going to ask just this one last question, because this, in my opinion, and based on my experience, is the biggest thing I see getting in people's ways. How do I bounce back after a major setback or failure?
Oh, that's a big one. How do you bounce out? I have to think about in my own personal experience. Well, first of all, this came to me not long ago, but don't refuse to take your failure personally. Refuse to take your failure personally. Failure is just a learning opportunity. Failure is only there for us to sit back and reevaluate what we need to shift and change, how we need to grow. It is not a personal attack on who you are, what you're capable of, your value, your worth. It has nothing to do with that. It is a part of life that the most successful people, and really, if you think about it, the most successful people have encountered probably bigger failure than what most of us have, because they have a lot to lose, right? I mean, now they're dealing with millions, and and they'll lose millions. And so, and they're dealing with all kinds of people around them, the pressures and the running huge businesses and the people that are around them, just all of that. So, but they have to keep going, and we have to keep going. We have to recognize it's just a part of the journey. We are all going through this learning process of failure, getting back up, failure, getting back up. And so just refuse to take it personally and say to yourself, it's okay. I am learning. What did I learn from this failure? What did I learn from it? And you just take what you learned from it and you improve and you go back at it. Remember, this is one of the pivotal things that has changed everything for me, and which is why I refuse to allow failure to dominate my life. And that is that I have one life to live. I refuse to lay on my deathbed and allow myself to have any regrets in my life. And so a fear of failure is not going to hinder me in my life and what I'm trying to accomplish. And so I refuse to take it personally. And I just take it as, okay, Shamain, you got to learn something new. Maybe you didn't do something right, and that's okay, because life is a journey of learning. And I know I'm going to get to my destination, and I'm going to enjoy the process, because I don't want entrepreneurship to be miserable. I want it to be fun. I want it to be an adventure for me. And I think that if we don't look at it as an amazing opportunity filled with adventure and growth, and really just, it's amazing. I think it's a certain breed of people who choose to be entrepreneurs. You have to have grit. You have to be a person who wants to persevere, and like, that there's more. Like, you're not settling for the 9-to-5 grind, where we are the courageous ones who are willing to step out and say, I know there's more, and I'm willing to put myself out there and pursue it. And that in itself is worth celebrating. And so we need to remember that we are an adventurous spirit, and this journey is an adventure. And I think it's all about shifting our perspective and not seeing it as a setback, but as an opportunity.
That's tension on that slingshot that's necessary to launch you to the next level. I love that. Thank you so much for coming on the show and dropping these nuggets. I know you told them to stick around, and I reminded them of this for your Notion project management template.
Yes.
So my wife posted the mind sweep on LinkedIn for us.
Yeah, I will send that to everyone. That link is available to everyone. If you want the project template, if you get the mind sweep and you subscribe, I will additionally send you the project management template.
So awesome. Thank you so much. And where can they find you?
Well, I have YouTube videos. Basically, just search Instagram and Facebook, and Facebook too, but really I'm on Instagram and YouTube under The Unstoppable Entrepreneur. That is you guys. And then really that's the best place to find me.
The Unstoppable Entrepreneur, at The Unstoppable Entrepreneur on Instagram and YouTube.
Yes.
Okay. Putting that in the comments. And any last words for our people before we go?
Just stay unstoppable.
Ooh, she dropped the mic right there. All right. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you, Gregory.
I believe, next week. 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks. Yeah, that's it. Thank you, Shamain.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.